Chapter 28. Echoes Through the Rubble. In the cloak of dawn, the city lay in ruins, a silent reminder of the devastation that had unfolded. The remnants of what once was were now just shadows and fragments, echoing the laughter and life that once traveled the streets of St. Louis. Call sign Briar Patch, comprising of Todd, Ken, Kate, Mac, Cameron, Gabe, Darian, advanced through this desolation, their steps resonating through the silence like whispers from the past. The team moved with calculated precision, their senses heightened, eyes scanning the remnants for any signs of the enemy. The destruction was omnipresent. Buildings, now just skeletal structures, were burned and broken, their darkened silhouettes painting the sky with memories of despair. Cars, once symbols of freedom, were now just rusting carcasses, littering the roads with their decay. "Keep sharp, everyone." Todd's voice broke the silence, a whisper in the sea of echoes. "We need eyes on any enemy movement. Briar Patch to HQ. We are advancing through the destroyed sectors." Todd radioed back. The city seemed to tell tales as they progressed, each ruined building a chapter of suffering, every scorched vehicle a verse of agony. Despite the overwhelming sense of loss surrounding them, Briar Patch advanced with steadfast resolve, each member vigilant, their focus undeterred by the harrowing landscape around them. Kate, her eyes like a hawk's, surveyed the environment, her gaze piercing the fog of devastation. "Movement. 3 o'clock, she relayed, her voice crisp. The team immediately pivoted, their formations tight, weapons raised in synchrony. Ken and Mac moved ahead, their bodies low, shadows amongst the shadows, assessing the situation. The air was tense, a silent air of anticipation. "Civilian," Ken's voice emerged, laced with a relief that was as transient as the shadows around them. Darian, the youngest of them all, mirrored his father's every move, his young eyes absorbing the scenes of destruction around him with a maturity beyond his years. Gabe, his protective gaze never leaving his son, felt pride and pain. This was not a world he had ever wished for his child to navigate. Every step was a step through a landscape of echoes, every silent building a keeper of untold stories. Cameron, his senses sharp, relayed every whisper of the wind, every rustle of trash back to the RTO at UCM HQ. "Briar Patch to HQ, Sector 7 clear. Moving to next coordinate. Stay sharp, stay safe." Cameron's voice was a beacon of hope amidst the ruins. Each report, a guiding light for the advancing troops, providing them with the much-needed intel as they moved closer to engaging the Chinese forces. Briar Patch, their forms blending seamlessly with the remnants, continued their meticulous reconnaissance. They searched for an advantage point and were pleased when they came to a sizable structure, its form a silent guardian overlooking the remnants of the once thriving metropolis. The skeleton of the building, though damaged, offered a vantage point, a place to see the world from elevated position. The team moved with swift precision, ascending the remnants of the once mighty structure. Todd and Cameron emerged on the roof, their silhouettes bathed in the soft glow of the morning sun. The world stretched below them, a canvas of shadows and light, each detail a brushstroke in the painting of the silent city. Cameron, the radio a constant companion on his back, gazed to the east, his eyes piercing the distance, scanning the paths that wove through the remnants of civilization. The world unfolded before him, a labyrinth, each turn a potential gateway to enemy forces. Todd, standing silent as a statue against the horizon, raised the radio to his lips, his voice stern. "Sidewinder, this is Briar Patch. Overwatch established. Sizable structure providing extensive visibility. We have eyes on the city." The radio crackled, the voice of Karnak emerging from the waves of static. "Briar Patch, Sidewinder read you Lima Charlie. Maintain overwatch. Relay any enemy movements immediately." The city lay before them with its former glory gone. Briar Patch, they were the watchful guardians, the silent sentinels, writing the unseen chapters in the battle ahead. Cameron, his hands clasped firmly around the binoculars, methodically scanned the east, seeking any sign of Chinese troops within the labyrinth of destruction. His senses were heightened, his gaze meticulous, dissecting every nook, every shadow, aware that the ruins around them were the perfect shelter for the lurking enemy. Todd's voice raced through the radio with grim updates. "Sidewinder, this is Briar Patch. Our current grid is Tree 861-90045. It's a ghost town here. No enemy in sight for the previous 2 miles. Seems like most civilians have left or—" His voice strained, not finishing the thought. Karnik's voice radiated through the static. "Copy, Briar Patch. UCM is on the move. Keep your eyes peeled and stay safe. We are coming." Cameron, absorbed in his reconnaissance, parsed through each ruin, each potential hiding spot, the ghostly, desolate city. The atmosphere was dense, every small noise magnified in the silence. Todd inhaled sharply before querying, "Sidewinder, any updates on Angelique?" Karnik hesitated a moment before replying, "She's as fiery as ever, wishing she was out there with you." Todd chuckled dryly. "She has that relentless spirit. We do miss having her watching our backs. There's a peace of mind she brings to us all." Before a reply could return, a sudden desperate yell broke the serene air. "Crap! Artillery!" Cameron's yelled as he gripped the radio. "Sidewinder! We've got visual on Chinese artillery! They've opened fire! Run!" Karnik listened as the static buzzed, intertwined with the distant rumble of death. Fingers wrapped tight around the radio, his voice punctured the static with increasing concern. "Briar Patch, come in. This is Sidewinder, do you read me?" The continued static was like a hand tightening around his throat, each second stretching into eternity. The realization of what may have happened creeped in his mind, a sinister whisper hinting at the loss of valuable scouts, valuable friends. He could no longer delay. He needed to know the status of his regiments. Turning the dial with measured precision, he keyed in the frequency for the regiments. "All regiments, this is Sidewinder. Status report. Any incoming fire? Over." Pratt's voice came through first. The tone was stable, unwavering. "Sidewinder, this is Pratt. No incoming fire, we are green and proceeding to the coordinates. Over." A flicker of relief pierced Karnik's worry. He swiftly moved to the next frequency. "Brewer, report your status. Over." Brewer's response was quick and concise. "This is Brewer. Clear skies here, Sidewinder. No incoming. Over." His heart pounding harder with each response, Karnik quickly hailed Windsor. "Windsor, status report. Incoming fire. Over." Windsor's voice held a certain calm. "All clear, Sidewinder. Windsor has no incoming fire. Over." A heavy silence enveloped Karnik as the reality sunk in, each word from his regiment leaders sounding off like a solemn drum in his mind. The absence of fire on his regiments was an ominous painting, illustrating a target drawn explicitly over Briar Patch. His grip tightened around the radio, his voice a strained whisper masked with professional rigidity. "All units, proceed with extreme caution. We might have enemy artillery zones marked. Windsor, Brewer, Pratt, stay sharp. Over." Karnik listened closely to the crackle of the radio, the ephemeral silence breaking into fragments. He leaned closer, every fiber in his body ready to react, straining to catch the voice through chaotic static. A sense of tentative relief washed over him when Todd's voice broke through the static. "Sidewinder, this is Briar Patch. I have call for fire. Over." Every muscle tightened as a spark of hope ignited within Karnik. "Briar Patch, transmit," he immediately replied, his hand gripping the pencil, ready to scrawl down the crucial information. "Sidewinder, Briar Patch, artillery, location tree, 864 tree 90 tree 86. Send one. Over." Todd's voice was unwavering, carrying the weight of urgency. Describing the coordinates swiftly. He handed the paper to the runner with a nod, his eyes meeting the runner's, the silent transmission of hurry apparent. "Get this to the mortar platoon, ASAP!" The runner sprinted across the terrain, reaching the mortar platoon leader, breathless, the paper thrust into his hands. "Coordinates from Sidewinder. Urgent call for fire, sir." The platoon leader's eyes scanned the paper, his voice commanding and clear. "Ready, 1. Set coordinates tree 864, tree 900, tree 86. Within moments, the mortar crew worked with drilled precision, the mortar aligned meticulously. A tense silence hung in the air for a brief second before the leader's hand chopped through the air. "Fire!" With a thunderous blasting thuds, the mortar tore through the sky, a harbinger of retaliation in the unfolding battle. Karnak stood in wait. "Sidewinder, Briarpatch, adjust fire, in 50 meters, fire for effect." Karnak, a figure of strength and steeled nerves, dispatched another runner, the essence of battle seeping into each stride taken. His gaze remained vigilant on the horizon, every sense attuned to the whispering wind, the murmuring leaves. Ensuing silence was soon broken by the harmony of warfare, 10 resonant thuds echoing from the 120mm mortar tubes. The crackling radio snapped his focus back. "Sidewinder, direct hit. Target neutralized." The voice, weary yet victorious, sliced through the airwaves. A momentary respite fluttered through Karnak. "Briarpatch, this is Sidewinder. Sit rep. Over." A pause that stretched was a silent battleground on its own, before Todd's voice cut through, the weight of victory and loss intermingled. "Still in the fight and moving. 1 KIA, Mac. 2 beaten, but still in the fighting." Karnak felt the sting of loss, the atmosphere heavy with the valor of the fallen. His thoughts inevitably drifted to Angelique, a fusion of guilt and clashing within his fortified soul. With the mourning for Mac and the enduring spirits of Briarpatch, a fragment of him, guilt-laced and thankful, was relieved that Angelique had not shared this immediate horror. His voice, with steadfast resolve, replied, "Acknowledged, Briarpatch. Sidewinder out." His hold on the radio tightened briefly, a silent homage to Mac and the unyielding warriors of Briarpatch. Karnak understood that Mac was merely the opening act in this grim dawn, as despite the sunlit sky, a distant rumble mirrored the somber toll of impending storms.